Hello and welcome to today's RV Living Show. We're Brian and Luann Street, and we're going to be talking about flat towing behind a motorhome. So stay with us and we'll be right back. The RV life. We're surrounded with the message that it's a life you have to wait until retirement to have, and a life that only some can afford. And while it might be reality for those who want to believe that's true, we're on a mission to change that mindset and help people to stop wondering and start wandering to create a life they love.
Join us in conversations about how to design your RV life. We're Brian and Luann Street, and this is the RV Living Show.
Hello and welcome to the RV Living Show.
Yes, welcome.
We're Brian and Luann Street of Where the Streets Wander. If you haven't watched us before, we have a RV lifestyle blog at streetswander.com, and you can check us out. Okay, Brian, we're going to be talking all about flat towing behind a motorhome today.
Yes, we are. A lot of you people who own motorhomes are thinking about buying a motorhome. This is going to be an option that you'll most likely end up doing because you want to bring a vehicle with you.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, people who do have motorhomes want to have a car so that they don't have to, unhook the motorhome in order to go get groceries or go sightseeing or whatever they're going to do. And in fact, that's what we prefer, is to stay in one spot, have the motorhome hooked up, and then, go off and do what we want to do. And so we bring our car with us. So for those of you who are considering a towable, this video may not be as interesting to you, but for those of you who are thinking about a motorhome, this is definitely we feel the best way to bring your car with you. But we're going to talk about all sorts of different types of towing.
There's different ways of doing it, but for us and for most RVers, flat towing is probably the best way to do it.
So what exactly is flat towing?
Well, flat towing is when you tow your vehicle, obviously flat on the ground, all four tires on the ground. Matter of fact, we have a picture of that.
We do. There we go.
There's our picture. It's all four tires are flat on the ground. This is actually hooked up to our motorhome. We pulled over. I snapped this picture, but you can see that that's what your flat tow. We don't use any type of trailer. There's nothing to bring with us. All thing we bring is our car.
That's right. And we really like this way of towing. So, whoops, sorry, clicked on the wrong one. All right, let me click off. There you go. So when we first started out RVing, we had listened to a lot of other RVers that they had done different ways of towing. And so I actually wanted to flat tow our Prius that we had before we were full time, because the Prius gets such good gas mileage. But then that was going to be complicated because we needed to have a dolly. So we want to show you what that dolly
would
looks
actually
like.
Called dolly towing at that point.
Dolly, yeah. Yes. So it wouldn't be flat.
Yeah. So this is a car dolly. This is another way that people can bring your car along if it's not flat towable. You hook this dolly to your back of your motorhome, and you see you've got those yellow stripes or cables or straps on there, which you strap your car tires down to the dolly. This is a little more complicated to set up because it most likely it requires two people, one to help you, one to drive the car, one to navigate you, getting up on the dolly to the right place, and then you go to the next picture if you would. We can show this is actually how it's strapped down to the dolly. You can see they've got those yellow straps that strap the tires right down to the little trailer. It's actually, I've totally towed one car with this one time like this, and it takes a lot of time to set this up
And work.
It's not an easy job. I mean, some people do it because your car just simply, you can't flat tow it, and this is the only way of bringing your car. A couple disadvantages of doing this is the fact that once you get to the campground, you have to do something with that car dolly. Most campgrounds, a lot of campgrounds don't let you leave any type of dollies or trailers around your campsite. They actually have a special place you actually have to take it to and leave it. So it makes things a lot more complicated, and plus it adds quite a bit of time to your leaving when you're thinking about packing up and going to the next campground. This could be a lot more work than most people would be willing to do.
Now, so I'm asking a legitimate question because I think some other people may ask too. When it comes to this type of dolly, so you would have to take your hand and pull up on the tongue there and navigate it to wherever it was going to be on your site, or where if it had to be somewhere else in the campground.
Yeah, you either would have to, most likely you'd probably want to use your motorhome, because it may not be, some of these might be heavy enough where you wouldn't want to do it by hand.
So that's also a disadvantage, is, using your motorhome to get something somewhere else besides your campsite if you had to store it somewhere else.
Yeah, like, you bring in a trailer. Some people even bring car trailers. As a matter of fact, I don't have a picture of one, but you've seen big flatbed trailers, and anything that you bring, whether it be a car dolly or a trailer, or that all adds weight to your motorhome.
And length.
And the fact that anything extra, we find as we travel, we don't want any extras. We just want the minimum, the quickest way to go, because it just when you have to get up and pack to go to the next campground, if all this extra stuff is included, it makes it up for a long day just getting started.
Well, and we've seen people, and there's nothing wrong with this. We're not saying this was just our personal choice, but we've also seen people with the trailers that they've painted to look exactly like their motorhomes, and they're beautiful, and they have a car in there, and they have their motorcycles, and they have all their things. And the downfall to that is also, where are you going to camp? You need a pull through all the time, because it's trying to back your motorhome up and backing your trailer up, and all of those things, can be a lot more cumbersome than just, having just your motorhome, right? And so, and like Brian said, it adds weight. It makes you, so depending on your travel style, if you're what I call a go and stayer, then maybe you want to bring a trailer because it's got a bunch of stuff in it, and you're a destination camper. You're not really a traveler. So, depending on how you approach your travel style is going to help you determine what's the best thing for you.
Right, exactly.
So I guess next, I'm going to go to our next slide. So tell us a little bit about this.
We're going to be talking about flat towing, obvious flat towing, but this is a Blue Ox. This is actually my tow bar mounted on the back of my motorhome. Now, I took a picture of this to show you how it's stored on the back of the motorhome. I don't have to disconnect it when I pull into the campground. All we do is just disconnect the car. This goes up on the rack there. It just folds up into place. I put a cover on it, and I'm done. As a matter of fact, I can drive down the road with this in this position, and it doesn't drag on the ground or anything like that. So it's very convenient. Once it's installed, once you install these on your motorhome like this, you don't ever have to remove them.
Yeah, that's really nice. We did see one other style of towing where the actual tow bar stayed hooked to the car instead of the motorhome. And so be careful when you're doing this, that you really understand what you're getting into when you're going to flat tow, because really it's probably not in your best interest to have all that tow paraphernalia on the front end of the car that you're going to be driving around when you're parked at a campground.
Yeah, setting up a car to tow is probably is obviously there's some cost involved in it. But if it's done right, we did it. We tried to do everything we can to do it right the first time, because it made it so much easier. Now we actually can pull our car up to our motorhome. As a matter of fact, we're going to do a video about this at some point. And how long do you think it takes us to hook it up? 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Oh, not 10. No, maybe 5.
Maybe 5. I mean, it's so easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the last thing we think about when we're trying to leave a campsite. Hooking up a car is just like, we don't even think about it. It's so easy.
Well, we're in practice too.
Plus, it does take practice, but we know what we're doing, and having a flat towable car, it just makes traveling so much nicer.
So some of the things that we need to have are this tow bar. So that's what's underneath that cover in the previous slide. And you can see it all expanded out, and it's now hooked to our car.
Yeah, they call this like an A-frame. This is hooked to the car. A couple of key things. If you got a pointer over there, you can point out. So first of all, you see the big black cable right there in the middle. That right there is where the power goes from the RV.
Whoops, sorry, I clicked instead of.
Goes from the RV back to a plug in the car. That's where I operate my tail lights when I'm driving. Underneath is a little breakaway cable.
This red one?
Little red one. Mm-hmm. And then underneath those, you see.
So what does a breakaway cable do?
Well, a breakaway cable is if a car were ever come disconnected from any reason from the motorhome, the breakaway cable would pull and it would automatically apply the brakes in the car. And
so it's a safety thing.
Safety thing. We'll show you more about that in a minute. And if you notice the pins over on this right here, this thing connects to the car by just 2 pins. Actually, there's actually 2 pins. It's easy to install. I mean, that's why we talk about it in 5 minutes. If I had a zoomed up picture, you'd see how easy it is. It's simply just line up a couple of holes, push a pin in, put a clip on the end of it. We hook up a couple cables, which are already attached to the motorhome, and then we're going down the road.
And what are these?
Those are safety chains or safety cables. This another, if for some reason the something on the bar broke, the car shouldn't get away from the motorhome because it has safety cables on it.
Give you time to stop and figure it out.
Give you time to stop. Actually, it's more the fact that it keeps your car from maybe running into somebody else.
Right. Keeps the car under control a little bit.
If it were to break free, I imagine if I had to try to stop, I might have some scratches on the back of my RV, but that'd be better than my car running into somebody else.
For sure.
Now, here's another thing that you're going to be doing. If you're thinking of doing this, this is what's called a base plate. Matter of fact, this is what I put on my Jeep, and this company is called Blue Ox. We'll be talking more about that in a minute. But the base plate is simply the part that hooks to the frame of your car. And each base plate is built specifically for a certain car. They're not interchangeable. This is the one part that you're going to buy that is not. If you were to go buy another car, you can't reuse this. Most likely, you're not able to reuse it. So this is a Blue Ox base plate. This is what we had to mount to my car. And then you can see you had the 2 little pins there which clip in when you're ready to travel. Is there another picture behind this? One more over. Here it is mounted to the car. You can see it's got a little rust in there. We've been using this for quite a while. But you can see the reason we like this particular base plate is that it's kind of hidden. It's really, if you're not really looking for it, it's kind of hard to see. Another picture behind it is here it is with the pins installed. This is when I'm ready to tow. I just go clip the pins in. All you do is push them in and twist them. They lock in place. Luann drives the car up behind the motorhome, and then we connect it, and we're going down the road. It's a pretty simple process. And here's what we're talking about the Blue Ox. This is what you hook to the motorhome. This is your tow bar. One thing I would recommend if anybody's considering this is tow bars come in different, classes as far as how much weight they can pull. I think you can get them anywhere from maybe like 6,000 pounds maximum weight to maybe 10,000 pounds. What I did is when there wasn't much difference in price, I went ahead and bought the one that would pull 10,000 pounds because I didn't know what I'd want to pull in the future. I'm just kind of thinking ahead. If I were to someday want to decide that I want to go buy a heavier truck, for instance, to pull that, I don't have to worry about just replacing this part. If I'd bought one that's just rated just for the car, then I may end up as another part I need to replace in the future. But fortunately for us, we've been through how many cars now? 4, 3? 3 cars. We've actually towed. This is our 3rd car we've towed, and we've never had to replace this part. We just replace the base plate.
The base plate on the car or the truck or whatever. Yeah.
And add some wiring to it, which I'll talk about the wiring in a minute, and we're ready to tow again. So what's some other parts we need to tow with there?
All right. So we've got, Yeah, we need a brake.
Got to have a brake. Okay, if the state laws, I think, just probably for any state, anything you're towing that's around either 2,000 or maybe 2,500 pounds in weight or more must have a braking, some type of brakes in there. And if you're
And this
towing,
is our second braking system, right?
yes, this is actually our third braking system.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to talk about this one and why we like this one so much is that this particular braking system, if you look at it, it's not very big. It has it's made by RVI brake. It's very lightweight. It only weighs 10 pounds.
And I can install it.
Yeah, that was very important. We had one that was very big.
Mm-hmm.
It was made by
it was Roadmaster.
Roadmaster. It was a big one. Is early on before I don't know if they may change it to them or not, but the big one we had, I had to actually go install it because it was just more the handle getting it in the car.
It was very bulky.
Very bulky.
They probably have a newer, updated version. I think ours, we had actually bought it used when we first bought, like way back,
Yeah.
and we just bought one on eBay that somebody was selling, and it was probably an older model, but then when we saw this one, we're like, oh, this is like easy to store, easy to, it fits right behind our seat in the car. It doesn't take up any room.
Yeah, RVI brake does a lot. We have a picture of it installed as well. Here it is installed in a car.
Don't look at our dirty mats.
Don't look at the dirty mat. Anyway, she said you can see the little clamp goes up around the brake pedal, and there's a couple of wires. I don't know if you can point them out or not. Like the breakaway wire.
So this is the breakaway.
Yeah, that's the brake. It plugs in right here.
Yep, comes around and goes right there.
There's a power cable.
Oh, well, if I quit clicking.
And there's a power cable.
The power cable's up here, goes to the 12 volt.
So tell them how you put that in the car when you say how easy it is to put in the car.
So I'll take it. He's busy doing the stuff after I've lined up the car, and I'll put that in there, and I make sure that it's a couple inches, at least an inch away from this base plate right here. And then I plug in this piece, and I get this piece over the brake before I plug in the power, because the power starts putting air pressure in, and then it's much harder to manipulate. So you want to make sure you're all set up before you plug in the power. And then you push this button, and the guy actually talks to you, and he goes, push this button, or whatever he says, and you push it, and he says, push it again, and you push it again, push it one more time, and then he does it again. So then it's done, and it goes RVI brake ready, and you're like, okay, perfect, I'm done. So so it's really, really easy. And so I'm jumping into the comments here for a minute, because I know Kimberly's talking about she has a brake system installed under the seat, no extra effort and more peace of mind as a solo driver. Yes, and we actually had one that was installed in our Chevy Colorado that was all like, we didn't have to do anything when we got started. So we those are really cool. The thing is that we then traded that truck for the Jeep, and we just didn't want to put the money back into it, and this was a less expensive option.
Well, for us is the fact that this will go to any car I go to. I don't have to reinstall a brake.
That's true. It's true.
And if I have multiple cars I want to tow, like if I were to buy different ones, and this will go to any car I want to tow.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, it works out so great because it's so simple to install, and it's small enough to it's really easy to just keep out of the way. And
I did love that one that was all installed, though.
The one that was all installed was nice until we realized that we traded the car in and all that. Right. We've lost all that money.
I know.
That was a big bite of money to chew up. All right, here's a controller. All of them will have a controller. This one, RVI brake, has it's a 7-inch monitor that sets up by the dashboard, and I can adjust the brake pressure. It also has a lot of other features that I'm not going to talk about in this video, as much as that it has a tire pressure monitoring system. It has a battery tow charger where you can it tells you if you're charging your how much your charge is going into your car when you're driving, and that's something else we could talk about. And it also has a leveling feature. There's a lot of features built into this. It kind of made us lean towards this company when we really understood what they were trying to do.
All right. So we want to talk about, hold on, I lost my mouse. Here we go. Okay. So this is some other pieces that you're going to need when you want to flat tow.
Yeah, now I know you're saying, why am I showing a piece of wires here? Okay, I'm going to explain this. This is called a 𝐼𝐡𝐚𝐭's custom taillight wiring kit for towed vehicles. Now, why this is important is that there's a lot of kits on the market today. And you know, if you're towing your vehicle, let's just back up for a minute. If you're towing your vehicle, you got to have brake lights on your car. When you apply the brakes in your motorhome, your brake lights in your car have to come on. It's probably state law. You can have lights back there anyway. And you have to have a wiring kit installed in your car so that connects to your motorhome. There's a couple different types. There's types that you have to splice into your manufacturer's the car's wiring, which I don't recommend. There's other types where you install like a separate light bulb socket if you've got room into your tail light, and then that is wired directly to your motorhome. And the reason you don't wire directly into your motorhome is because you don't want power from your motorhome going into your car when it's not running. You don't want any type of power in your system other than your brake lights coming on. And what this does is that this is a plug and play. In other words, you just simply plugs in directly to your tail lights. There's no splicing. There's no wiring. When I found this kit, I mean, I've done 3 of these, and I found this kit. This was so nice, just quickly plug it in, run the wire to the front of the car, and connect it to the 6-pin outlet, 6-pin outlet, and you are good to go. So here's the things you're going to need. First, just to recap, you're going to need a car base plate. That is the only part. If it's done right, you'll never have to. You always have to replace. If you replace your car, you'll have to get a new base plate. But if you get the right tow bar, you never have to replace that. The braking system there again. If you choose the braking system that will go with you from car to car, you never have to replace that. And your brake light wiring kit, obviously. That's going to be built into the car. You'll have to just rewire a new car if you decide to change it out. And here's a battery tow charger. I put that on there because a lot of time when you're towing for long, several hours a day, and you're using the power from your car's battery to operate the braking system, unless you're charging, put a little charge back into your battery, you could end up with a dead battery. We have that had to us before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's nothing worse to get to the campground at night and find out your car won't start because the battery's dead. RVI makes it. Other companies make them as well. They're like a little battery charger that you put on your battery. They're pretty easy to install. And when you plug in your motorhome, it charges your battery as you're going down the road. Just gets enough charge to keep your battery from going dead.
So next we're going to talk about what it takes to, here's the list. We're actually going to put this with the video. So if you guys ever come back to the video on YouTube, Facebook, or in the blog post, because this will end up there. Or if you're listening to this on the podcast, you also will have this in the resource notes of the podcast. But these are the URLs for the things that we've talked about today. We should add one more about that 𝐼𝐡𝐭's braking system. I'm sure you bought that on Amazon, didn't you?
I got it from 𝐸☆Trailer.
𝐸☆Trailer. Okay, so 𝐸☆Trailer's where you're going to get that.
Now, there's other companies out there that obviously sell braking systems. These are some of the bigger names out there. Blue Ox. Roadmaster is actually a very good company as well. We buy a lot of products from Roadmaster. Matter of fact, a lot of stuff on our motorhome and suspension came from Roadmaster. I think at the time we went with Blue Ox simply because we wanted a system that a little more out of the way, compact, kind of cleaner looking to the car. And I think that's the only difference between the two. I'm sure Roadmaster has new systems out today. I haven't looked at what they have.
Well, Tina says that she likes the Roadmaster better. So we haven't looked at a Roadmaster more recently, yeah. But she says that they don't bind and that they have lights on the bar. But we haven't had trouble with ours binding, have we?
No.
No. And so also, because there's a couple questions and I want to get to those in a second. So let's just move on from here. And I want to talk about, okay. So this is important. How are you going to choose a toad? First of all, a toad is a play on words with TOWED because you're towing the car down the road, right? And so you call it a toad. For those of you who are new to RVing, we don't want you to, it's kind of like an RV word, But you want to have your car that you're going to tow behind your motorhome approved for flat towing by the car manufacturer. Their book, when you go look at a car, will tell you whether or not that it can be flat towed or what it takes to be flat towed. Because there's a couple, it depends on the manufacturer. There's a couple different things that you may or may not have to do to get that car ready at the time you want to tow it. I'm not talking about previous to that, but like taking a fuse out. I mean, you don't want to do that, right? Because you don't want to have any fuses that need to be removed before you tow.
Back when the first thing you talk about a car by the towing by the manufacturers, that even cars that are the same model with different types of transmissions, different types of systems, some are flat towable, some are not. Mm-hmm. For instance, like you talk about a Jeep Cherokee out here we have. If they make a two-wheel drive Jeep Cherokee, I'm not sure if that's flat towable.
And it depends on the model year. And we're going to give you a URL to find some really great resources about how to pick your car.
Yeah. So another thing is, first thing, number two is that towing limits of your motorhome. That's going to help determine how much car you can actually tow. Our motorhome can tow 5,000 pounds, and our car weighs just a little bit under 4. I wanted a lightweight car as much as I didn't want to put much more weight on the motorhome. I didn't need to, so I wanted to stay sure my car was well under the limit, the safe towing limits it is. Another thing you could look for is a lot of cars with manual transmissions, or a compact 4-wheel drive vehicle. Now, be careful with the all-wheel drive vehicles. Some of them may not. You want to make sure that yours can be flat towed. And another thing is consider is free movement of the steering column without the key. You don't want your wheels to lock when you go down the road.
Yeah, you'll be dragging it.
You'll be dragging it, and that's not a good thing. So you got to make sure when you take your key out of your car that the steering wheel doesn't lock. That's something you can find out about. And then Luann mentioned no fuses need to be removed. But some of the cars out there that are in the list, you do have to remove a certain fuse. It may not be a big deal. We had to do that to one of our cars, which wasn't a really big deal. But the one we have now, we don't have to do any of that. So just think about these things when you're picking out a car. Will it fit some of this criteria?
And here is a great URL. You guys are going to want this when you're thinking about buying a car or getting a new car that you're going to tow behind your motorhome. So at motorhome.com, download dinghy guides that, depending on what year you're going to be shopping for a car or what year car you currently have, these lists are very comprehensive and can help you cipher through all the different makes, models, and years of vehicles that can be flat towed. These will tell you what needs to happen to them if you're going to flat tow them, so that you can pick one that's the easiest. If you don't have a car already and you want to do this, that you can pick one that's really easy to do. And then the most popular tow vehicles, Brian put a little bit of list here, and this is kind of based on what we see when we're in a campground. Jeep Wrangler, which Brian really wants.
Yeah, I wanted one. She won't let me buy it.
A Jeep Cherokee. Now, the 4-wheel drive, we have the Trailhawk, and so that makes it flat towable. We've also had a Chevy Colorado. Most Chevy models they're able to be flat towed.
Yeah, I just this is no certain list. I just see a lot of these in the in the campgrounds. I see a lot of Chevy Colorados. Lots of Jeeps. There's a lot of Ford vehicles. We see a lot of them. What's some other ones we got here? Chevy, obviously, but there's a lot of cars that can be flat towed. It just all depends on basically the transmission setup.
Yes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go quick. Well, you know what? I'm just going to tell you guys, and I think a couple of you watching live, and so maybe those of you on the replay, we just updated our travel planner. So when you're thinking about, travel planning, we have a new undated version that is now available. So you can check us out at rvtravelplanner.com. Usually I throw a little commercial up there, but I wanted to just tell you, since we're on this video, that those are now available now. And so you can check those out. And so we're going to jump into the comments and talk about, Kimberly says, one tip for me is lengthy trips to WD-40. For lengthy trips is to WD-40 the pins for easy removal at destination. Yes. So that's really great. Mm-hmm. And Diane says this is what she's looking at, is the Blue Ox. So Kim's got the Blue Ox. Tina says she prefers the Roadmaster, and she wants the Invisibrake. Those Invisibrakes are pretty cool. We've seen those too. Yeah. And let's see. Gabrielle, she asked, was changing our cars a personal choice, or is doing this hard on the cars? So you want to talk about it?
I think changing our car is more of a personal choice for us.
Well, we totally did. I didn't want to drive the truck anymore. We had a Chevy Colorado. It was a truck. I was tired of driving it. Brian said he was actually tired of driving it. So that's when we went to the Jeep. So no, that was not the reason that we changed. But I want to dispel a couple myths about flat towing that we actually have heard recently by some people that were in a group somewhere, and they were talking about how flat towing racks up the mileage on your odometer. Well, it does not. It does not. If the car is put in neutral and you do everything you're supposed to flat tow it, it will not put. I mean, you would ruin your car if it wasn't engaged properly. It will not rack up the miles. However, it is going to rack up miles on your tires because it's 4 wheels to the ground. But even with a dolly, you're wearing out 2 wheels at a time. So your tires are involved somehow, unless you're in a flatbed.
Yeah. Your tires are involved, and far as that, we've just replaced the tires on our car, and we had towed the car at least 20,000 miles, and plus it already had 50,000 some on the odometer. So the tires had like almost 70,000 miles on them.
Yeah.
And they still had more miles left on it. It really wasn't putting any extra wear on it. And the only reason we changed it, because our tires were getting aged, we decided it was time. But one thing I will point out is that it's important to rotate your tires a lot. She's on to me all the time. Every time I change oil, you got to rotate the tires, which we do. And that obviously saves your tires, because rotation, keeping them rotated, especially if you're going to be flat towing it, because the front tires are actually going to be working a little bit harder because they're trying to steer behind the motorhome. So you could put more wear on the front tires if you don't rotate them.
So Kimberly says she has a 4x4 Jeep Liberty, and the hardest thing for me is to put the transfer case into neutral before towing. So ours is really pretty simple with the Jeep Trailhawk. Basically, I use an ink pen and the tip of it, and push the button down until it's red, and put the car in neutral, and then in park. Well, in neutral, push the button, put it in park, turn it off, and I'm done. It's really pretty easy. So that's good to know about the Jeep Liberty. And every year of car, every model of car, every manufacturer of car is different depending on the year and make, because car manufacturers change things up, right? So that's good to know, though. That's
I mean, we had a Chevy Colorado that was a little more difficult.
That one was harder.
It was, for some reason, you could get it English, but it was a little more difficult.
Yeah, sure. It was like more of a I don't know.
Play with it and hope that it goes.
So Tina says she has a GMC. Yep. So I'll tell you, those Chevys and General Motors, they're the favorites for flat towing because they've made it so easy in the way that they manufacture the car. And Kimberly says her dream car is the Mini Cooper. Oh no, we're going to start this again. No. So Brian had a Mini Cooper and he was very disturbed that we did not take it with us. We actually had a manual transmission, so we could have flat towed it. But we couldn't have put our bikes on the back, and we couldn't have put, and there was a lot of things, and he still misses it. So maybe it's on his exit plan.
There might be another one.
Oh, and Gabrielle says, she heard about the miles thing, so thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, it does not. And the other thing is that when we go to flat tow and we hook everything up, I stay outside I have my phone on speaker. Brian goes in and he pulls the car forward. First, we test the lights to make sure they're all working. And then he pulls the car forward a couple feet and I watch that the tires are going around, that they're rolling and that we're not dragging the motor or the car down the road, which is super important because we've actually seen that happen before where they take on off of their campsite and people are yelling at them, wait, and I know that solo RVers don't have that, but just be careful when you're starting out. Just make sure that the car's rolling and you're not dragging it. You will hear it. So, okay. Well, that's awesome. Are there any more questions today? This went a little long today. Thanks for sticking with us. Oh, and Tina says the wiring. It's Hopkins wiring.
Yeah, I'm gonna put all of this in the blog post. I'm gonna put all
and underneath the video.
All the slides, as much information I can. I'll try to get it up. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but I'll try to get it done. So you have all this information. Look at it. Go over to the different websites. Look at everything everybody's offering, and see what's going to work for you.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed having you today. We wanted to also tell you, for those who are not in our free Facebook group, this is where we interact with everyone, and you can ask some questions about RVing in there, and you can join us right there at facebook.com/group/stop wandering and start RVing. We would love to see you in there, and we're getting ready to do a travel challenge in the next couple weeks. I'm not committing to a date yet, but it's in the works. So if you love traveling, love RV travel, jump in this group, and we're going to be doing this fun little travel challenge coming up. Okay, right, guys. Oh, we got some more. Thank you. You guys are fabulous. Oh, thanks, Kimberly. Thank you, guys. All right. Well, we will see you next week on the RV Living Show. Same time, same place. And we're going to be talking about how we travel with our internet, like what we use specifically to get our internet. As most of you know, we work from the road and we are very data dependent. So we're going to share what we're doing with that next week. So be sure to join us. Have a great week.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us for the RV Living Show. We hope this episode helps you in creating an RV life you love.
Until next time, we encourage you to stop